I appreciate I'm standing between you and lunch, so I will definitely stick to the 20 minutes. As introduced, Angus, Gregory, CEO of Biomni. We're a software vendor. We've been around roughly 23 years, kind of one of these silent companies that don't really hear much about us, but we've pretty much been sticking to our guns over the years around end-user self-service, end-user self-provisioning. But one of the aspects that we've learned in the last 4 or 5 years when we started to introduce natural language interface, user interface interaction, was that it doesn't matter how good your system is without good knowledge. And we recognized that was a bit of a lacking on our part. And so we've set about trying to solve that problem in the last few years. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, is this knowledge network. And we feel that digital workers, i.e. the employees in your organization, are often being held back. They're being constrained by knowledge. I mean, look, if we go home, we have an issue, we always go and Google something, check up on YouTube, we do something, then we go and action it because we've learned, we know what to do. You then go into the office, and that whole process of doing that, finding knowledge, fixing it, disappears. We don't have that ability to do that. So knowledge workers are being held back. They get wrong decisions. They don't find the information, often misinformation, because I've read one thing, I spent hours looking for it, oh, that'll do. Also, because in an organization you're reliant upon doing your job with the information to hand, that can affect your productivity. It drags down the employee experience. Look, if you're struggling to get information, finding it difficult, that could affect the way that employee handles the way they deal with customers. So it is very important if you can get that right, so you can get really good satisfaction with your employees that ultimately drives up your customer's experience with you in the organization. Obviously, we've been doing a bit of research on this. This is a slide from Gartner. They did the survey recently, and out of that survey, 47% of the people in there said that they were struggling to find information on a daily basis. So the information that they needed to do their job was lacking. So there's 47% of that. That's quite a big number that we took out from that. Clearly, there's a number of other stats in there as well. Applications, explore which applications I've got to go to find that information, do things, etc. So it's quite a big use of, the time that people are spending in the organization just looking for information, going through that process. And the reason is because it's disparate and hard to access. So you have structured knowledge all around the organization. That could be knowledge bases, it could be policy documents, it could be your HR policy for holidays and so on and so forth, where it's well documented, well defined, there's a process around updating it, etc. I'll come on to a little bit of that later as well. But you also have lots of unstructured knowledge sitting in hard drives, SharePoint, etc. A number of times I've spoken to people who say, yeah, we've got SharePoint, can never find anything in there as well. But you've also got tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge is what's in people's heads. It's all that other information that may not necessarily be about a particular process or part of the job. It's just stuff that people know that is really important to help do things inside the organization. And then there's transient knowledge. And transient knowledge is stuff that's going to be just around for a short period of time. So, for example, if you're running a service desk, you might declare a major incident. That major incident is only going to be, hopefully, for a short period of time. But you want to inform people, to say to people that there is this big incident going on. Please don't log another ticket. Please don't call us, etc., etc. That's what we call transient. And there's lots of other examples of transient knowledge in your organization. But it's that tacit knowledge that people have in their heads, which is, how do we get that out? That's really important. And of course, if you look at that, those are all islands of information all around your organization. Islands of information that people are then having to navigate. And in this case, you'll probably notice on our stand, we love ducks. We always give them away. So this little duck's swimming around trying to find that information on a regular basis. And I think something like 20% of people's time is spent per day looking for information to do their job. So again, translate that into money. That's quite a lot of money being spent just trying to find information to do your job on a daily basis. Okay. So of course, knowledge seekers, that costs time and money. So as I said, 20% working day searching for information. Often that structured knowledge becomes out of date. Also, I was talking to somebody the other week and they said, we've been spending months and years building a great knowledge system that we thought was fantastic. But when we did surveys with our customers, they said, we don't look at that information. Yes, you've created it, but that's not what we're searching for. We're searching for other information. So actually, maybe ask the questions or find out what are people looking for and then create the knowledge. Sort of spin it on its head. Again, costing money to create knowledge. That becomes out of date quickly. Co-workers also don't share information. I've heard often, time and time again, that knowledge is power. I'm going to hold on to this. If I have this knowledge to myself, actually, I'm in power. Well, that's counterintuitive. That's going to cost people. People can't do self-service if you're not sharing that knowledge. You can't drive the costs down on your service desk. You can't make sure that that knowledge is shared across the organization. And I've talked a lot about with organizations about when that knowledge leaves the organization, that's costing money. But somebody referred to this to me. They said, actually, it's not so much the knowledge leaving our organization. Yes, people have knowledge in their head and they're going to take it with them, fine. We can stop discs going out the door, etc. But what happens when we recruit new employees into our organization? Costs you money on recruitment fees, costs you lots of time and effort, etc. You want them to be as productive as possibly they can be in the shortest possible time. You need them thinking like the rest of your organization as quickly as possible. Somebody said to me this morning, months, if not years, before they actually understood the internal processes in their organization. That's a lot of time and money after you've spent with recruitment fees and everything else. So you want them to be as productive as possible, as quickly as possible. How do they do that? So what can we do about this? Well, we believe in this knowledge network, building a knowledge sharing network within your organization. So telling people and incentivizing people to share that information, break those silos down, make sure that people are taking information that's in their head and putting it into something that is meaningful for users to be searching on a daily basis. Okay, bring those federated existing systems that you have together, put them in a unified experience. So in other words, don't tell the user, go to this system to search for that, go to that system to search for that. Because that just that application sprawl, making sure that they can just go to one place, use natural language, and find the information quickly. The other thing on top of that is everybody needs to play a role. So that's what I mean by that tacit knowledge. Let's encourage organizations to get the users to share that information, incentivize them, gamify it, making use of the crowd. So when you use these applications, rather than the system saying, sorry, can't find an answer, try something else, actually use the power of the crowdsource it within your organization. So actually put the question out, maybe even identify within the string of text and say, hey, Bob, you're in accounts, you could answer this question. Mary, you're in sales, you could answer this question. And then everybody can participate in providing that information back. So you might have somebody who is the so-called expert in a particular area answering a question, but then somebody else could chime in and say, oh, yes, but in this scenario, that doesn't work. This is how we find it works in the field. And then you get a large source of information filling those knowledge gaps within the organization. And then you can start to convert that into shared knowledge and structured knowledge bases. And of course, everybody is an expert at something at some point in time within your business. So don't lose sight of that. Let them participate in this. And it's capturing that tacit knowledge. Fill in those gaps, take it from their heads, put it into a system, and also, when you are getting these people to answer these questions, people could be voting on them. So you get a sense of how important that question is. Maybe we need to change a process. Maybe we need to update the core system because people are saying this is a really good question, or actually it's a really bad, or this particular answer is the one that solved my problem, and so on and so forth. And of course, it's an organic asset that you have. The knowledge never stays still. Don't ever think that you've done one knowledge base and you've got a process for updating it. Yes, there's the good processes of keeping that in a structured way and maintaining it. But in today's world, you need to change that information often very quickly. So you need to put in processes that are going to incentivize the individuals to update the knowledge there and then, rather than saying, okay, we've got to go through a life cycle of a process that could take months. Sometimes you want to shorten that down and get it within days, if not weeks. So somewhere where somebody asks the question, maybe that expert can go back and very quickly type in and say, yeah, this is the answer. And then after a period of time, you can curate that answer into a more structured knowledge base article that goes into a published particular application or knowledge base. Clearly leveraging what you've got. What we don't say is you've got to chuck everything out and start afresh, because clearly that isn't a great use of your assets. So bring all those structured knowledge bases, the shared drive that you've got, the transit knowledge, tacit knowledge, bring in data from your service desk, bring in data from your HR system, those types of areas, bring them all in, maybe create Q&As from them. We can, there's tools that you can scrape these things into nicely structured Q&A questions and answers, or knowledge bases, or just have access to documents like policies and PDFs and so on and so forth. Bring those together, unify the experience, unify the search, so you go to one place. I don't care whether it's a PDF I'm searching or whether it's a Q&A or just these open questions out there in what we call the expert assist process. And that becomes your knowledge network. Bring it all into one place, consolidate it, make it easy to search and find stuff using natural language. Users today want to have natural language conversations. They want to have a conversation with the systems. Funny enough, my CTO, my co-founder, he was giving a speech the other week, and he said he's on his 4th generation UI. He started in the business of converting a DOS-based application to Windows. Now he's moved through all the whole UI of the internet, etc. And now it's all gone back to natural language. That's what people are communicating and just having a conversation with an application. So we do this by using our approaches with digital assistants, so using chatbots, natural language, as I say, and the knowledge network is at the heart with conversation flows. So you take your users on a journey with a conversation that they're having with applications. Yes, we use some of these big, large language models, such as OpenAI, Microsoft, and Google. We very much focused on the Microsoft side, but we do recognize that there are areas where you might want to use the likes of Google, the likes of OpenAI. But clearly, it's your data within your organization, and you want that to remain that place. That's why we feel Microsoft's large language model is probably the way to go, because it's staying within, it isn't shared with the big wide world out there. But you use those at the right times at the right place, and it's all configured to work together, and you use those conversations to take the user on a journey, natural language, entity extraction, all those types of things as part of those. And your users, your personas, are knowledge creators. They are business users. They are people using it in, maybe it's Microsoft Teams, maybe it's Slack, maybe it's on a mobile device, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of different ways to access that. You don't want to limit the different ways that people can go in and find that information. So different personas, accessing that, and of course, as I said already, the knowledge is the key part. You can have the best language models, best chatbots, whatever you want to call them, but without the knowledge, it just is another interface that people are going to go, oh, great, but it doesn't give me what I want. What's the number of the service desk, please? And that's where we feel creating this knowledge network with lots of information, but more importantly, don't take them down a dead end of, sorry, don't know the answer to that, log a ticket or try something else. We're saying that's the beginning of the journey for us of creating filling those knowledge gaps. But also, it's also about these process execution venues. So in finding the answer to something, actually let the user go and complete their journey by transacting with a system. So for instance, how much holiday do I have left? Or I want to book a holiday. Well, the first thing you might want to do is say, you've got this many these days left. This is the policy for taking extra holiday. You want to read the document. You want to read the policy. You've got all that in one place. And then say, do you want to book your holiday now? Yes. And then you're taken through to actually booking that holiday on your HR system, going through the approval process and so on. So you don't want to then take the user on a journey halfway there and then say, oh, by the way, that's the end of the process. Now re-log on, re-go through all that information, etc., find another place to go to. You can very quickly take them on that using that conversation approach. They've already entered a lot of the information in. Just grab it, take it through, and then go through to what we call these process execution venues. And they could be anything. They could be service desks, HR, your own internal applications that you've built using these conversational flows. So they all link together to bring that whole process. So finally, this is my final slide. The knowledge network obviously helps to upskill your workers, gives them access to that vital information quickly. It's also about extracting that tacit knowledge. It's about bringing years of experience from all the people that you got within your business, making sure that they are sharing that information, that you can start to reduce the costs across your business. Learn where those knowledge gaps are. Again, by using conversation, you can see where the gaps are. You can see where users have gone on a journey and they've got to a certain point. Very clearly, it's just written out like a conversation. This person said that, they typed in this. It's not a heat map of where people have put their cursor, etc. Very easy to understand because it's a conversation. We all understand that language. And you can establish forums. You can see where the whole process is breaking down, what gaps of the knowledge we have. In other words, if a user is asking these particular questions, because you can see those questions being asked and no answers are being given, that's where we need to focus our efforts on. Is it a process we have to change? Is it the knowledge base that we have to change? Or is it that we just haven't got around to creating that knowledge yet? And ensuring that you can curate and retain that knowledge and eliminate that brain drain. But I think more importantly, it's about how you get people on board, how you onboard employees and keep them engaged quickly. Nothing like an experience of an employee joining an organization and finding that first 3 or 4 months of, oh my gosh, why have I done this? It's really difficult to get around the organization. That's another big thing. Of course, the incentivization is there for appraisals. You could use the gamification of this. In other words, the more people contribute to the knowledge, more people asking questions, providing answers to those, gamify it. Maybe even part of the appraisal process. Maybe even make it part of your corporate social responsibility program. Somebody was just talking to us about maybe you incentivize it with money tokens, those types of things. Various ways that you can encourage employees to share that knowledge, but it has to come from a top-down approach. And the mechanism's there. Now it's just about implementing it. So that's all from me. I've given you 5 minutes, and hopefully you can grab a cup of coffee before lunch or tea, but come by and speak to us. We've got rubber ducks to give to your kids. That's what everybody says they're for, but we all know differently. But absolutely come and talk to us if you want to know more. Thank you for your time, and hope the rest of the afternoon goes well for you. Thank you.